Okay, everyone, so I hope you were able to figure out how I built that site without you looking at the code. So right now, we will try to go and create a repository of that site in GitHub, and we will be using Git to push the files that we have in our local machine to our remote repository, which is located here in GitHub. So the first thing that I would want to do here is to open the folder. So I will be opening this HTML portfolio folder here because this is where I would want to go and try to create the files for our Git exercise. So you would see that the folder here is empty. Let me just go and try to open the folder here. And it's currently empty here right now. I named it HTML portfolio. You can name it Git exercise or any name of the directory that you would want to go and use for this exercise. So now I would want to create our index.html here. And then create our first template here. And then let's name this git HTML template 1. So this will be our exercise for Git. So you would see here, everyone, that we have what we call the terminal, and we can actually open this, and it will be similar to the functions of the command prompt in Windows and in Linux, the terminal. So you would see here it's called terminal. So we are currently in my directory path, which is in my drive D. It's not located in drive C, but in your case, it might be a different directory. So don't worry about that. And if I go and try to type here git dash dash version, you would see that I have my version of Git here, as we've seen in our previous lessons. Now what I want to do here is to go to my GitHub account, and I would want to create a new repository here, and I will name this as an HTML portfolio 1. So this is an HTML portfolio template. We can go and try to change this to RBSL portfolio 2 because I already have an RBSL portfolio 1. So at least you can customize this depending on how you would want to name your repository. So let's just keep it small letters. Then we can add a README file, or we can do this in the command line. Add.gitignore is just simply a text file that tells Git which files or folders to ignore in a project. Choose a license here. We'll be telling others what they can and cannot do with your code. So for now, I just want to go and create a repository. So we now have some instructions here, quick steps. So if you have done this kind of thing before, we can go and try to set up in desktop. You can go and use this portfolio.git here, which is located also here. So let's go and try to follow the instructions here and go to our project here. Now let's try to go and echo a README file here. Let's do it one step at a time. You would see it created a README file with the RBSL portfolio file over there inside of the file here, README file. So you can specify the description of your repository here in the README file if you want. Then we would want to initialize this as a Git repository. So that's what Git init is used for. So we now have an empty Git repository, and that's usually what Git init is. It will be creating an empty Git repository. So here we can also add a README, but we've already done that. So let's go and commit our first repository, or let's go first perform our first commit, and that will be using this command. So git commit, let's just copy that here. This just means message, so this can be any message. Let's say this is our first commit. So this can be very useful, especially if you're working with other developers. Then you can go and give them a message on what changes you have done in your repository. So here we have the Git branch. So we are currently in the master branch, but this will be changed. We want to change that. So we will be using Git branch dash capitalized M. So let's just go and try to. Okay, so we have to first git add readme, specifically that file here. Because we created a new readme file here, we will need to add that specific file. So git add will be the file that is untracked and the index.html here. So we will need to specify the git add command here. Okay, because we are going to add these files that are here that we have created, the index.html and the readme file here, into our remote repository later on. We will be pushing these files here, or we will be uploading it. Just to give you an idea, when we say push, we are uploading it to our remote repository. So we will need to do the git add command for us to be able to track the files here. So we will need to add this file here. Then let's go and perform this again. Git commit. And there we go. So we have committed the readme here. Then let's go and add git add index.html. We can also do that. Then git commit -m add index.html. Okay, that's our second commit. So let's say I am a fellow developer, we are working together, and you will see here that we have an untracked file here because we haven't committed this, we haven't added this file here yet, the index.html, into our repository. So we will need to go and add that index.html also. Let's go and type that. So you would see now that the source control here is empty. No, there's no tooltip here saying that there's an untracked file such as the one that happened here. Now let's go and push this to our, or have this in our main branch. And then we would want to add it to our remote repository that we've created here. Oops, let's go push this here and type that here. Press an enter. And then we will need to push this to the origin, which is the main branch. As you can see here, we now have our main branch. You will only need to do this once, everyone, this command here. And if you have just recently created a repository, this is the first time that you've created this repository, you will need to add this -u origin main command here, which is a flag that adds a tracking reference to the upstream server you're pushing to. So that means this is the repository, which is the main branch. And what is necessary here is that this will be allowing you to do a git pull without supplying any more arguments. So for example, once you are doing git push -u origin main here, you'll be able to later call git pull, and Git will understand that you indeed meant git pull in the origin main branch that we have here. Okay, so let's go and try to add this command here. Copy, paste, and let's see. Let's wait for it to upload to our repository. And you would see here now that it's uploading. And let's try to again review the things that we just did here. So here we first echoed and created a readme file we use the redirector here that now has the string text. As you can see here, we have that string text here inside of our README file. And if we go to our folder, you would see here, let me just open our folder here. You would see that there's a Git folder. We have the index.html and the README file here. Okay, so Git init will be initializing an empty repository. Then every time that we make changes in our files, like if, for example, we create a new file here, we will need to go and use the git add command. So that's why when we committed our first commit here, we run into an error, which is the untracked files. That would be the index.html and the readme file here. And you would see that normally it shows us some instructions here. So one file change when we did our first commit, 0 insertions, 0 deletions, and the create mode here. And here when we added the index.html, we also added a message. So again, this is a way for us to add a specific file. So specifically here in this command, we have the git add command, and then we added the readme file here so that it will be tracked as we try to push the files to our remote repository. And we added here, we use the commit word here that specifies a message. This is the argument message. This just means this is a message. And this is our first commit, which is a text strings of words that specifies what we did in the changes that we have made. So again, we added here the index.html, and then we committed it, and we added a message, add index.html. Okay, at least if you're working with another person, they will know that this is the change that you've made through the message that you've made here. And you would see here, one file change, 11 insertions. That means we have 11 lines in our code here that were inserted. And then we specified our branch, which is the main branch. Then we have the git remote add command here so that we will know the origin of the remote repository from where we will be storing our files. And that will be here in our GitHub, in my Git account or GitHub account, and then the repository, which is rbsl portfolio 2.git here. And then we push the file to the remote repository using the git push command and dash u argument to the upstream to specify that this will be pushed to the main branch of our repository. And now we can see here the details, how many objects, delta compressions done, writing objects. So we have a new branch, which is the main branch, and set up to track remote branch main from origin. So if I go and refresh this, you will now see that we have our index.html here, and you can do some editing in our index.html from here. We can make some changes, and you would see here that we also have some message here. You can add a message, description of what you did, and we have here the issues. You can put some issues here, so at least when you're collaborating with other developers, they will be able to identify, or they can put an issue here, new issue. And here you will see pull request for this specific repository. And again, here's the code. Now, if I go and try to make some changes here, let's say I would want to go and change this. Instead of HTML template, I would say here rodprogramdev and save that. And you would see here that we have a tool tip here saying in source control, one pending change. So that means we have made some changes in our index.html that needs to be pushed to our remote repository. So let's go and try to git add index.html, then git commit -m. Let's write a message here saying that change title from HTML template to rod program dev. So we can see here one file change, one insertion, one deletion. So that means it deleted the first content here. And then if we do git push, it will be pushing the changes to our remote repository. Okay, let's wait for that. And it was able to successfully push the changes to our repository here. So let's see what happened in our branch here. Let's refresh. Let's see here if there were some information here. Let's go to our pull request here. So you would see here, guys, we have 3 commits that were done. The time, so 22 minutes ago, the first commit. Here we have another commit that we made, and that will be the message here. So if we try to click on that, you would see the changes that we have made here. So from the deletion that we made and the insertion that we made. So deletion will be the red color here. The green color here will be the changes that we have made in this specific commit. So we have details of the commit that we've made here. So that will be all for this lesson, everyone. I'm hoping that you got the idea on how to go and create a repository. So we will now be working with our portfolio template, HTML template site, and we will be pushing the changes to this repository, and then later on we will be publishing this on the internet so that future employers can see the website that you've done in this project, okay, or in this exercise. So that would be all for now, and thank you, and see you on our next lessons.